Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Untapped Podcast. My name is Jacob Gabel.
And my name is Jacob Wurtz, guys. Welcome to episode 130 of the Untapped Podcast. If this is your first time joining us, first of all, thank you. We are thrilled to have you here with us. We've actually got 5 main formats of our show. So first, we have Forging Fortitude episodes. Now, in these episodes, we cover the mental side of our brand. We go over our anecdotal experience with things like mindset and mentality. We then pass on tips and advice to you guys to then apply to your own lives. Next, and this is what we have today for you, we have physical vitality episodes. In these episodes, we cover the physical side of our brand. We really get to showcase our expertise in these episodes because you have 2 certified personal trainers here. So in these episodes, we cover everything to do with fitness, nutrition, the gym, workouts, fitness programs like 75 Hard, supplements, Untapped training, which is alive and well. If you guys have any questions regarding Untapped training from us, please reach out to us. We'd be more than willing to help you in any way we can. And sometimes we will take trending topics or articles within the fitness industry and give our thoughts and opinions on those. These physical vitality episodes, guys, are full of free game, especially one like today. So make sure you pay attention, take notes, listen back if you need to. Very, very info-filled.
You're like a bee, dude. Absolutely buzzing on the intro there.
I thought you were giving me a B grade on that. I'm like, you know what, dude?
It's like, yeah, that was like maybe B minus, maybe. All right, guys. Now, on to our third format. That is our breaking news format. That is a current event-based format. Now, we mentioned last episode, there's a lot going on in the world. We could do 3 to 4 of these a week. We don't want that to be all of our content because everybody's seeing it. Everybody's stressing about it. We don't want to add to that. So those are not doom and gloom episodes. We do discuss the current events and what's going on, but we also give solutions and good things and good ways to go about addressing it as an individual and also maybe in your community as well. Now, our fourth format is our Knights Table format. That is a masculinity-based format. We touch on fatherhood, masculinity, and men in general and how important they are. Toxic masculinity, if it's real, what is it? And now, keep in mind, I'm 26, Wurtz is 25, Mitchell is 24. If you don't know why I'm laughing, it's because I got that wrong 2 episodes in a row. Now, anyways, because of that reason, we are not coming to you as an all put together perfect man. The only perfect man to ever walk the earth is Jesus Christ. Now, on to our 5th format. The 5th format is our guest format. That is when we sit down with an athlete, doctor, fitness professional, entrepreneur, somebody with a great story, you name it, anybody that brings you value, we're going to bring them on, whether we're friends with them, whether we just met them a few times ago, whatever it is, we're going to have a great conversation and we're going to bring you guys value. Our last thing to introduce is our producer and my brother, Mitchell Gabel.
Hello, lads.
Money Mitch.
Hello.
Lads. Is that like a shout out to the UK boys? Is that what that is?
Yeah, I'm
All the stuff they're going through right now.
I'm a drill rapper right now.
Hey, just make sure you don't retweet anything that could get you in jail.
Yeah, put in jail
That'd
for
be
criticizing. Jeez.
that'd be crazy, dude. You know, if you retweeted something.
Yeah, do you say they're going to try to extradite you? As they said, they were going to be like, any Americans that do this, we're going to try to extradite them and put them in jail in the UK. Yes, this is a police commissioner that said this in the UK.
Hey,
Big Brother is here, ladies and gentlemen.
British boys, we have the Second Amendment. And I always got 2 on me.
Don't do it. Please don't do it.
Please.
Please don't do it.
You.
Fine.
We convinced him out of it.
Boom right here, baby. Come on.
Camera pans away from Wurtz.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. But yes, the UK boys, like, you got to handle your business over there. There's no doubt about that. Because if you don't, you're all getting locked up.
True.
So,
for no reason.
for no good reason at all.
Anyways, like I mentioned, we do have a physical vitality for you guys. And this episode specifically is going to kind of act as a longer answer to several Q&A questions that we have gotten just kind of over the time of the podcast. And we've addressed this a few times quickly when we're doing just our Q&A segment from Money Mitch. But today, so instead of having a Q&A at the end of this episode, we're going to just kind of answer this in a little bit longer of a form. And that question being is, how do I lift heavier? I want to lift heavier. How do I get my, the big 3 movements, squat, bench, deadlift? how can I get those numbers to go up? I'm kind of at that point in my fitness journey where I want to start lifting heavier. I want to start getting stronger in those lifts and just in general. How do I do that? And so we're going to kind of address that question as a Q&A, but really for the whole episode. Still a normal podcast episode, don't get me wrong. But because we get that question so often, whether that's directed to us here at Untapped or even you and I in our own jobs as well.
I was going to say it's like 50-50 again. Like we get questions from DMs, but we also get questions in person a lot. Just because naturally we're very active in the St. Louis community, so we have a lot of that.
Yeah.
So if you guys have questions, even then, like you can ask Q&A questions in quotations to us
for sure.
When you see us on the streets or whatever.
Absolutely,
that type of thing.
Are you in the streets?
Yeah. Remember, this is our first vlog. Remember, I was on the east side. Yeah, come on,
getting your special supplement.
Yeah, come on, dude. I'm out there.
Mitch, did you know that your brother is for the streets?
I mean, he walks outside barefoot wherever he goes, so it's Hobo Joe.
Yeah, I'm connected to the earth.
Big touching grass guy.
Oh yeah,
I can feel the spirituality.
Loves
of
putting
the
his concrete. Loves putting his concrete slappers where they don't belong. That's for sure.
Just a nasty word for feet.
Do you know Dormammu now?
Dormammu. I've come to bargain. That's me every time I step outside.
Do people know that reference? If you do, let us know what it is. Who is
Yeah,
Dormammu?
they could have zero clue. Or we could say it sounds like some anime nerds right now or something like that.
It's kind of the same thing in that scene.
Yeah, that's not a bad point.
All right, anyway, Gable, how do we get big, huh? You're big. How do we get like you?
Thank you. Appreciate that. But I actually want to mention, like, as we start here, the first thing.
Just answer the question.
Well,
please.
yeah, I was answering the question, but hey, be right. But the point is, the first thing I want to mention is nutrition. I've talked about this actually not really recently in any of the episodes, but I used to be very, very skinny. I'm talking 170, 180 at my height at 6'4", which was not healthy. I also was basically just a toothpick and just got blown everywhere by the wind, essentially, when I stepped outside. But the point is that the main way I put on weight, because right now I'm sitting at about 250, which, I'll probably fluctuate that back down about 15 pounds or so, just to have more cardio, but not the point. But the only way I put on weight was literally eating essentially as many calories as I possibly could. Now, the lucky part is my parents, especially my mother, is a really good cook. So she was feeding Mitch and I like crazy, which was awesome. So that's the first step. Eat a lot. If you're on the side of me that's skinny and you really just can't get big, you can't put on weight. And honestly, you've been on routines where you've been eating 300 to 3,500 calories as well.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you know the drill to get strong too.
Not only that, but even when I've been eating 300 to 3,500 calories, there's times where I'm cutting and eating that much. Granted, that's more of like a 75 hard type situation.
Oh yeah.
Where
no
you're
doubt.
you're just moving all day, every day. It feels like, and
well, if we're talking to our young crowd, for sure. I mean, they all should be moving like that.
Absolutely.
So hypothetically, if you're that active crowd that listens to us and whatnot, you might want to recheck your calories, because I talk to way too many people who say they eat a lot and they say they lift a lot, but they don't lift hard and they don't actually lift or eat a lot.
Right. And I was literally going to go over that exact concept right after your point there, because I work with a lot of high school guys. That's a big percentage of the athletes that we work with at Legacy. And one of the most asked questions by not only the athletes themselves, but their parents also is, how can I gain weight? I want to gain 10 pounds. I want to gain 15 pounds. How do I do that? And the first thing I always say is, okay, like, it's possible. We can do that. Now we got to make sure we do it correctly, but you need to eat, X amount of calories, whether that's 3,000, probably low for a high school kid that's as active as the boys that we have and girls that we have down there, but 4,000 may still be a little bit light. We might have to be looking more in that 45 to 5,000 range, which sounds insane, because your whole life you're told 2,000 calories a day. And as we know, for the most part, that's not actually the correct amount.
Right. For some people, that's a number they should be at to lose weight.
Correct.
If they've been at a high number for too long.
Absolutely.
You know, or like a
Absolutely.
slight surplus for too long. They put
Yeah.
on like 30 extra pounds or whatever,
Right.
you know, that type of stuff.
Right.
Sure.
But then, you know, they'll tell me, it's like, oh, no, I eat all the time. I eat all the time. I'm eating a lot. And it's like, but here's the simple fact of the matter. You can tell me that, but you're not changing. You're not gaining weight. You're not getting any stronger. So you're not eating as much as what you think you are. And that's why I stand so hard on tracking, so that you at least have a number, you know, and you don't have to track for whatever, like however many days it's been for me now. It's almost 2,000. I'm getting close to 2,000 straight days.
That's crazy.
And so you don't have to do something that drastic. You can if you want, but you at least need to do it for a little while so you have an idea of what you're actually consuming. Because to get stronger, to lift heavier, to help these lifts that we're about to go over, to help those numbers go up on the lifts, you have to be eating. You have to be eating, and you have to be eating a lot.
Yep.
You know, if you really want to do those things.
Especially you 12 to 22-year-old boys that are listening too.
Yeah.
Like you young men, like you don't have a choice, because also your hormones are essentially keeping you skinny in a certain way too, because your puberty kicks in, your testosterone kicks in, and then that's also burned a bunch of body weight off and all that stuff. So,
and then a lot of them play multiple sports.
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
and so
exactly. They're getting 30,000 steps a day sometimes. If you're doing football or something like that too. Yeah, I mean, dude, 100%. So those guys, you got to reevaluate. Like if you're not at 4,000 or 5,000 calories, and you know, oh, I eat a lot. I eat 3,000. It's like, yeah, well, you just had 2 practices in one day, and they were both in 95-degree heat.
Right. And you worked out.
Yeah.
Like that 3,000 is gone.
Or as when we worked with a college team, actually, you and I, it was conditioning in the morning, weights, and then practice for 2 hours.
Right.
So 3,000 ain't going to cut it.
No. And those were girls.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And we're saying that
100%.
for girls. Like that's my point there. You know?
100%. Yeah. Girls worry a lot about not having range with their diet and whatnot.
Right.
Which, funny enough, like girls that are, you know, outside the college realm and whatnot, if you just added like a 30+ minute walk in plus maybe your strength workout and whatnot, you'd be able to up those calories a lot more than you think, and have some leeway, so to speak, in your diet,
and still get results.
Absolutely. But anyways, getting away from the nutrition aspect of it, and starting off where we're talking lift heavy, you know, improve the big 3 as they like to be called. Squat, bench, deadlift are great movements. And they are the big 3 for a reason, because of the fact that they are the most well-known and well-studied movements there pretty much are on the planet.
Yeah. About as traditional as it gets right there.
Absolutely it is. Bench is one of those that us dudes, we love. You know, all of us dudes, like we naturally have a little more upper body proportionate strength than women do.
Yeah.
So we gravitate towards something like bench. That is one that all 3 of these I'm going to say this for. Just knock this out now. You need to prioritize learning your form. Now, we're not going to talk through form on the podcast here, because you wouldn't be able to get anything out of that, but you need to have the form nailed down as close as you can. And again, strength training is also one of the safest activities there is. It's actually rated safer than essentially every sport is too. So if you think about it, you know, if you're already a football athlete, that's already more dangerous than you doing strength training.
Yeah.
So we're not going to fear monger about form and say, you know, if your back is tilted 1 degree the wrong way, you're going to rip your disc apart or something like that. No. That's not the case. But you need to dial it in to the point where you can get to 90, to where you can utilize your feet and push up from the ground. That way on a squat, on a bench, you need to be able to utilize your feet as well there.
Yes.
You need to be able to utilize your core. You need to be able to control your elbows whenever you're coming up as well. It's a big one too, because that allows you to put down more power. Deadlift, you need to be using essentially everything below your chest.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being completely honest here.
Right.
That's one that this deadlift is probably the toughest one out of those 3, I'd say.
Yes.
To learn.
Probably has the most room for error.
Yes.
Because it's so easy to screw your back up, which, you know, we've talked about with Wyatt when he was on.
Usually it's load management a lot of the times too.
Exactly.
Some 15-year-old kid will dive in going 225 when they've lifted 135 before. And
And they'll be recruiting the wrong muscles and things like that. So, you know, any of the 3 could you get hurt on? Obviously. You could get hurt doing dumbbell curls.
You could get hurt picking up laundry.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
I mean, you know? I kind of screwed my back up a couple weeks ago when we were filling our GoRuck stuff up with sand. You know? And that was just me being stupid with how I was picking up and carrying the sandbags. Like the literal sandbags, not even the GoRuck sandbags. You know? So it can happen regardless. Now, like you just said, we're not going to fearmonger on that. But I agree with you. The deadlift is probably the hardest one to get, or it at least takes the most amount of reps to get it correct.
Yeah, it's a technical movement.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. It's a very skillful movement, to be completely honest with you, which sounds kind of funny to probably some people that look at like meatheads and whatnot. You know, they think of just big gorilla, picks up heavy weight, that type of thing. But it actually does take a lot of really specific work to get to the point where you can have your deadlift form down.
Yeah.
So good form is number one. And again, if you need help with form or you need help with training in general, reach out to Wurtz and I.
Yeah.
We will happily help with that. Because I know how scary it is to do that and learn by yourself. I did it by myself, and it wasn't very fun on my body learning by myself, to say the least.
For sure.
So,
and two other things I wanted to hit on here real quick is something you mentioned with the bench. That is a very, very forgotten part of the bench movement, whether it's a dumbbell bench variation, whether it's a chest press machine variation, or a traditional barbell bench, your feet. Your feet are so key. You know, I think I've mentioned this in the past, but down at Legacy, we test our athletes at the end of every month. One of those tests is a 2-rep max of dumbbell bench. And when I get to that point with any of the athletes, you know, where we're doing the test part, you know, they're trying to get as heavy as they can. Some of these boys are trying to push 80 to 100 pounds now, you know, which is awesome. We have some girls that are getting up to 50s and 60s, which is awesome, you know. But something I always remind them of when I'm spotting them is keep your feet glued to the floor and push through your feet. Now, when you say that on a bench movement, sometimes you'll get kind of a confused look. And they're like, what do you mean use my feet on a bench press movement? You know, I'm using my arms, you know, is what most of them think. And that's fine, whatever. You're using your chest, you're using your triceps, you're using your shoulders. Obviously, that's what your
primary movement.
Yeah, right. But if you can correctly use your feet during a bench movement, you will surprise yourself with how much easier that heavy weight will go up. Because if you can imagine it in your head, because it does take some mental reps with this as well, is pushing through the floor. And that doesn't mean doing the classic power lifter where, you know, you got a crazy arch in your back and all this. Is there a time for something like that? Yes, sure. It looks ridiculous. It looks like an exorcism is happening with some of these people. But
tell us how you really feel, Wurtz.
I just, some people,
I agree. It's hard for me to like be completely non-judgmental a lot of times about some fitness stuff.
Yeah,
for sure. It's hard. I get it.
And it's the worst when it's like high school boys that are trying to they're trying to max with their buddies. And again, they have this crazy arch in their back, and it's like, that's not what you should be doing right now. Like you're only having to bench this far instead of the real rep, which is this far. You know? Yeah, exactly. Mitch is demonstrating over there for us. But anyway, learning how to power through the floor with your feet on the bench press movement is so key. Again, it takes some mental reps to connect your mind to your feet while you're also doing that movement, but you will see the increase in the weight and the decrease in the level of hard go down, you know?
Your feet are important in every single one of those. I mean, unbelievably
absolutely
important.
Yeah. And it's your feet get forgotten about a lot in most movements, and your core gets forgotten about a lot in most movements. And that your core literally goes for anything. I mean, whether you're doing any of those big three or any of the accessories we're going to mention later, you know, you could be doing leg curls. If you're hunched over doing your leg curls like this, you know, like you're not correctly doing the movement. You know what I mean? Like, you don't think about your core when you're doing leg curls or leg extensions or dumbbell curls or, you know, lateral raises or whatever. But if you can correctly engage your core, like, you're going to be safer.
Even on machines.
And more effective.
And we've talked about how effective machines can be too.
Yes.
But yeah, absolutely. There has to be actual specificities that are involved there on machines too.
Yes.
You know, it's not just to hop on and it's, oh, machines, I'm never going to injure myself.
Right.
You know, like you need to have it dialed in as well on machines.
The risk of injury certainly goes down, but it's not impossible to get hurt on those.
I mean, it's,
you know? And which is the point of machines.
It goes way down on machines. Yeah. But I mean, again, if we're being really honest, the body is very adaptable. So I think that's a key point to where these young athletes, the people just getting into strength training and lifting of some sort, you have to keep in mind that your body, and we talked about this in the, you know, should you train like a maniac? Should you train like a savage all the time? Physical YouTube exclusive. Is that 5, right?
Yes, I believe so.
We talked about that there, where your body, I mean, you're literally creating stress for your body to adapt to in a micro setting when it comes to the weight room, when it comes to running, when it comes to any type of exercise like that. That's what you're doing. So your body will be prepared for what you prepare it for.
Yeah.
Is essentially what we're saying here and what this is.
Yeah.
That is the main thing about Simple Guide to Lifting. It's like, that is the entire thing, is that if you prepare your body for heavy lifting, lower reps, that 3 to 5 rep range or lower, or whatever it is, your body will adapt to that stress.
For sure.
You know, that's why power lifters, they are who they are, because they train in the 1 to 6 rep range a lot of the times. You know, and some of them, they talk about they do accessories up to 12 to 15 reps and whatnot. That's a whole another conversation we can get into. But for the most part, they train their body for what they're planning to do.
Right.
So it depends. Like, are you wanting to be a power lifter? Okay, that's going to take a completely different style of training than what we're going to talk about here, because we're not talking about powerlifting necessarily. We can talk about that because we're very educated in that realm as well. But the lifting heavy realm in general is not you burning out with, 10 to 12 reps on bench or 20 reps on bench and whatnot. It can help with endurance for sure if you throw that in at the end of like a drop set or something like that. But for the most part, you are training specifically for the strength aspect, which is that lower rep range. So, and again, if you train for that, you will adapt and be able to lift heavy weight. That's just true. And if your body gives you a little bit of pain, that's okay. We are imperfect machines. That's just how it is, our human body.
Yeah.
That's okay. Adjust, adapt, maybe go see a chiro, talk to them, maybe go see a physical therapist, whatever, see what you're doing wrong, see what you can point out and whatnot, and then go from there. Maybe you talk to us and you're like, man, this is what my deadlift form looks like. And we look at it and, your entire time your spine's flexing through the entire movement. Okay, that could be part of it.
Right.
It could be that you're leaning all to your left side and you're using all your left side. So you're having left side knee issues or hip issues. Who knows? But that does not mean you're some kind of broken and screwed up human being. It's just that our bodies are imperfect. We can't have everything entirely dialed in straight ahead. I wish that was possible, but it's not.
Right.
So, but I can tell you right now, everybody that strength trains or exercises in some form is going to have better outcomes than somebody who does not.
Right.
Long term.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Real quick on the second point I was going to make off of that first few that we were making. With the big 3, the bench, the squat, the deadlift, the great thing also about those 3 movements is they can all be regressed and progressed. And I think especially with the deadlift, a lot of beginner lifters are very intimidated by the deadlift, and the great thing is like, we don't have to start you on a bar. We can regress you to a kettlebell deadlift. That's what we do with a lot of our younger athletes. We don't have them using a hex bar. Like, hell no. We'll have you start on a kettlebell. We'll work on the form there, because as far as a hex bar deadlift goes, a kettlebell deadlift is damn near the same exact movement. Obviously little changes here and there, but it's very, very close, compared to a traditional deadlift. And there's obviously all different kinds of bars that you can use as well for deadlifts. You could use the bar with all the different grips. What is that? What is that called?
usually I hear the Titan bar.
Yeah.
That's one name
Titan
for
bar.
it.
Like I've seen people use that for
multi-grip bar.
Yeah. There's obviously the hex bar, and there's even different variations of the hex bars now. Some of them are freaking sweet. The ones that Brock Wilson and Jeff Lavecchio have. I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's kettlebell deadlifts. You can even do a dumbbell deadlift. I would say do a kettlebell because you have better grip to be able to do on that. But the great thing is don't be intimidated by these movements, because they can all be, there's all kinds of variations for all 3 of those. Squats, you can start on a goblet squat. We can start with body weight squats for that matter. With bench press, let's start with push-ups. Then we go to dumbbell bench press. Then maybe we go to the barbell if we feel it's necessary. So if you're intimidated by any of those movements, we can and we will, especially with Untapped Training, like, we will start you to where you're not going to get hurt. The intimidation goes away. You get comfortable, and then you get more confident with those movements. And then as you gain all of those things, the confidence, the ability, the form, and all that, then we'll start progressing you to the hex bar, or to the straight bar, or to the barbell for the bench, or getting under a bar for squats, or whatever it is, And so my overall point is don't be intimidated by those 3 movements because there's tons of variations. And you and I, honestly, like we do all kinds of variations all the time. You know, I still do goblet squats. I also still squat regular. You know, I love doing hack squats as well. You and I, we still use the hex bars a ton for all different kinds of things. We still use straight bar for deadlifts, you know? So just because we may be advanced lifters doesn't mean we don't still do the other movements. I still do push-ups. You still do push-ups, you know? Like it's not like, oh, okay, you know, I've been lifting for a few years. I don't have to do push-ups anymore. No, you should definitely be able to push your body weight up off the ground.
Yep.
You know?
And you'd be surprised if you don't do push-ups how hard they are when you get back to doing that.
Definitely.
Like
every
every
that's
time.
that's a great point. That's a great point.
Your body weight is not some easy weight to work with.
No.
It's just,
I think
that's just true.
For me, the biggest thing I've seen that gets very hard if I don't do them are dips.
Oh,
you know, like,
dips are bad if you do them.
Yeah. Oh, well, yes,
man.
100%. But, you know, like right now I'm sticking to just body weight dips because like, man, I used to be doing these all the time. You know, I've been doing a little bit different programming, and so that's fine. I haven't been doing them as often, but it's like, damn, like these are hard, you know, just body weight ones, you know?
Absolutely.
And like you mentioned, that really goes for any lift or any movement, you know, goes for running. If you stop running, you're not going to be as good of a runner. You know, if you stop skating on the ice, you're not going to be as good of a hockey player. If you stop taking ground balls, you're not going to be as good of a fielder. Goes for anything. You know, if you stop podcasting, you wouldn't be as good at podcasting, you know, or talking to people or whatever. So
yeah, we've even talked about that when we've taken our season breaks back when we were doing seasons and whatnot.
Yeah.
You know, we would take a 3-4 week break or whatnot. We'd come back. We were like, okay, we got to shake off a little rust here.
Right.
You know,
It would take us literally like 5 tries to get the episode started.
Oh, yeah. Easily.
Mostly just because we were just screwing around, but we still do it.
No, we're always professional.
The 3 of us, it takes us no time at all to get the episodes going. Wouldn't you agree with that, Mitch? he's fully
just in his own world.
Fully in his own world over there. As we've mentioned, he's not overly intelligent, so focusing is very hard for him.
What were you talking about?
Yeah, he wasn't.
That's our point exactly.
He's probably scanning the interwebs for how to hack the newest firewall or some nerdy shit like that. Yeah.
Is that what you were doing?
No.
He was watching anime.
I was looking up how to lose weight so this chair stops creaking. But I was being told just to eat more over here by these chaps.
Yeah, we're trying to get Mitchell to 200, but he tells me that's too heavy for him.
250.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Make him a bowling ball.
Bro, I was telling him think about it.
I'd look like the girl who ate the gum in the original Willy Wonka and the chocolate factory. Yeah, that's what I would look like.
Do you not remember that at all, Wurtz?
I don't. Not at all. Not at all.
You were like,
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
Oh yeah, she ate
Well,
it.
yeah, because you're old, so
Blew up.
because you're ancient. So I mean,
Well, JT actually probably saw that in theaters because it's so old.
he actually got to go behind the scenes.
He was on the movie set. As we're about to ruck with this guy tomorrow morning.
He created the black and white movie.
He was one of the guys that like had to turn the camera. That was his first job out of high school, actually.
You know, that really quick side story, just because you said that. At the movie theater I used to work at, there was one day we went up to where all the projectors are because it's like actually, I took you up there. But we found one day some old film from real film movies, and like it was actually really, really cool to see. I mean, crazy long, but you could like hold it up to a light and you can like see the scenes. I mean, it was actually really cool.
That's actually really, yeah, that's awesome.
And so this is kind of a cool little note when they were doing film movies still. So it was either Coke or Pepsi. I don't remember which. But these movies, when they were making the films, they would very quickly, like you couldn't even see it to the naked eye really, but they would throw ads in the middle of a movie. Right in the middle of the movie, there would be an ad for Coke or Pepsi or whatever. And you wouldn't see it to the naked eye, but your mind would be able to process that happened. And then subconsciously you would get like thirsty for that soda. And then people will go buy it. Yeah, that's like a real thing. Crazy.
It wasn't because cocaine was in Coke when it first came out?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably had something to do with it.
Probably a little bit.
Yeah. All right, anyway, let's hit on accessories real fast here.
Yeah. Guys, if you don't know what accessory movements are, put very simply, they are movements that do not, they're meant to usually, this is very much so a generalization of accessories, but they're meant to hit more specific muscle groups than compound movements are.
Yeah.
Compound movements naturally, like the zerchers, the deadlifts, the squats, the benches, etc., they activate, like we were talking about, damn near everything in your body.
Almost full body movements.
Seemingly, yes. Accessories are aiming to focus one particular muscle group. Obviously, there are going to be secondary ones that get involved on those to a certain degree, but it's much less so than on a compound movement. A good example is a rear foot elevated split squat, also known as Bulgarian split squat. Put one foot up behind you, one foot out in front of you, and then you basically just lunge or squat down, so to speak. That one is a primary mover for glutes and quads a lot of the times, and that's usually what people use them for. Now, on that same note, a unilateral movement like that, which means one leg or one arm in this scenario, are very useful for building up strength for those big three movements and those compound movements as well, which also assist in you lifting heavy on those type of movements.
Absolutely.
Because if you can control movement on one leg or control something with one arm, pressing or rowing, that type of stuff as well, then you naturally will be better when it comes to bilateral movements as well.
Yeah. Basically, they should be used to complement those big three.
Correct.
That's
There are some people, some training philosophies that they claim that unilateral movement should be most of your training and whatnot. There's still a verdict out on that. That's the problem with the fitness industry. People if they get into it first, they hear about 50 different things and then they assume you can't just take one route for training, which confuses people. But really put simply, the bread and butter is doing your compound movements as your primary stuff. And then your accessories, like Wurtz said, just add on and complement. Your unilateral movements, etc., is a great way to go about it. Now, again, you could talk about specific athlete training. You could talk about a million different things, hypertrophy training and whatnot. Maybe I use more machines for that, all this type of stuff. Not exactly what we're going to get into, just because we're giving it simple to you guys here. But yeah, accessories are amazing, and I think everybody should be doing some form of them in their workouts, especially if you're doing strength training 2 to 3 times a week. You need to have those backup accessories. It doesn't need to be 6 of them.
Right.
It could be 2 to 3 of them after your compound movement. That's the way I love to structure my training personally. Is I love to have one big compound movement, whether it's zerchers, whether it is a deadlift of some form, whether the hex bar, straight bar, etc. And then I get into stuff like single leg RDLs. I get into stuff like my one arm rows and whatnot. I get into stuff with dumbbells. I get into stuff with kettlebells that way, maybe some kettlebell snatches, all that type of stuff. And that allows for a lot more focus on individual areas than I would be able to get out of a hex bar deadlift or a zercher squat or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that complements the rest of my training.
It also...
No, go ahead.
It also, especially with the unilateral movements, they can also help correct some of the deficiencies you might have. If your left leg is a little weaker on your squats, well, we can hit that with some unilateral work and we can strengthen that. That doesn't mean we're going to ignore the right because then you're creating other deficiencies. But
I always think it's funny when people say that. It's like, dude, just go do 100s in the left hand and get the left leg and then do 80 in the right. It's like, no, whoa.
Yeah, no,
whoa,
please,
whoa.
no.
Yeah.
Please don't do that. No.
Yeah.
But like you said earlier when you were introducing the accessories, is it will help you build the strength to then lift heavier on the big three. So correcting a deficiency or putting a little more focus work into a unilateral in a unilateral sense will then in turn help you with those big three. Unilateral work is it's fun, first of all, because it's very challenging. When we were talking earlier about having to have your core engaged on basically any unilateral movement, you have to, otherwise you're going to fall over or you're going to drop a dumbbell on your face. Like you have to. Because it's going to help keep you balanced throughout the movement, whether it's a single arm bench or a Bulgarian split squat or whatever. It doesn't matter. But if you don't have your core engaged on something like that, like you're going to do it incorrectly and you might injure yourself that way. So that was just another key there on the accessories and the unilateral work.
Definitely. And another way, I loved how you said complement too, because complementing doesn't mean that they're just a cakewalk.
Thanks for the compliment.
Yeah,
dude.
of course, dude. Yeah, of course. We're always balancing each other out that way.
They complement the big movements. You complimented me.
Yeah.
But
That's an accessory compliment for you. Okay, we're done.
reaching.
Yes. Jeez. But you talking about the compliment aspect of accessories, it's important to also train these very hard. One, it's fun to do that anyways, because especially if you can get to the point where you are really loading up a single leg RDL and you have a bunch of control on it and you're just working your ass off on it, that is great. That is a great place to be at. And again, if we're talking about correcting deficiencies, the intensity has to be high to be able to do that. Because again, we are eliciting an adaptation whenever we do that. That is the whole point of the intensification aspect of it. That's the whole point of even load management phases that we add in for clients and whatnot. It's like, okay, we've been pushing the gas pretty hard for the last, 12 weeks or whatever it is. Let's chill for this week or whatever it is, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many other ways to do that too. But that is the whole idea of that, because your accessories are, again, a beautiful movement, but they aren't your main focus if you're asking us about lifting heavy here.
Yeah.
They're great, and if you want to train mainly accessories, that's totally fine. You're still going to get a lot of benefits out of them. That's not taking anything away from accessories at all.
Yeah.
But if your main focus is that lifting heavy, which is what we're focusing on here, then naturally you should put your main effort, aka have it at the start of your workout, main effort into the compound stuff. Have a proper warm up, whether that's just picking up the bar at the lightest weight and then working your way up, or doing body weight to work up to it, or whether it's like you have 3 to 5 movements you enjoy doing a warm up with. Perfect. That's how you and I like to do it. Just because it feels like we kind of get the wheels churning a little bit.
Yeah, kind of get focused into it. It's kind of a mental thing as well.
100%.
Like, all right, as much as I maybe don't want to be here today, like, I'm moving now.
Yeah. It's like, I'm already here. I already took the pre-workout. Cool. Let's get into it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, so if your main focus is that lifting heavy and that strength, then it's your number one movement arguably should be your compound movement.
Absolutely.
Like I would at least say that most of the time. Now, it's different. Sometimes we'll program days for full body days as well for clients and whatnot. And that's a very common usage tool as well. Just because of the fact that full body days, you can get a lot of volume in on those days as well. If somebody's only has time to do 3 days a week, which are plenty of our clients, that helps you accumulate more volume. Now, again, we do focus the bigger movements even at the start of those too, for the most part, depending on the phase. But yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it too. But you got anything else on accessories?
You mentioned, if you want to train only accessories, like, that's fine, which it is 100%. I think really the only time you're going to catch yourself or someone doing that is more of a bodybuilding type training regimen.
Oftentimes,
Because if you're literally training for a show, and listen, like, I go to House of Pain, as most of you know, so the majority of people there are training bodybuilding style and or are literally competing. So those people have to focus on the individual growth of individual muscle groups. They have to do that to look the best on stage. So, you're not going to see most bodybuilders doing any sorts of deadlifts. Rather they're going to be doing a lot of lat pull downs and a lot of the back machines and rowing and things like that. Single arm sometimes, bilateral sometimes, things like that. They're going to be focusing more on the individual aspects. So if that's how you're going to train, by all means do that, But our overall question here is lifting heavier, and I'm not going to repeat everything you just said, but the only time you are going to be doing a accessory only type of split is in that sense, when you're specifically training for bodybuilding,
Which is, again, I mean, it's totally fine to do that. And
yeah,
bodybuilding, you're going to get a lot of results at because you're still training the musculature groups.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still going to get a lot of health benefits out of that. 1,000%.
Absolutely. Yeah. Good pumps.
Yeah, 100%. And, there are some people that just really enjoy doing only like kettlebell training or mainly kettlebell training.
Yeah.
Or they just enjoy doing accessory movements only, and that's their type of style. They're like, I don't really like the bigger compound movements. And that's totally fine because you're still going to be able to put good muscle on.
Yes.
And like you said, with the accessory movements and whatnot with bodybuilding, you're definitely going to be able to elicit hypertrophy out of that.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Because it really is about intensity on that. And load is great for hypertrophy and muscle growth as well too. So like going heavy won't necessarily hurt you because, we've talked about it before. If you do a heavy enough deadlift, it's going to make your back look very thick.
Yes.
It's going to give that size to it, So for
Absolutely.
sure, if you're a bodybuilder and you want to do a deadlifts, there's nothing saying you can't.
Correct.
But a lot of those guys, a big consensus in the bodybuilding industry seems to be that those accessory type movements, because accessory is such a generalization, but it's the best word we could use here. Accessory type movements are what's going to elicit the best adaptations, because a lot of those guys feel like if they can actually get into the muscle and feel the muscle, in quotations, connection, just the easiest way to describe it.
Absolutely.
Then that's the best way they feel they see growth, they have growth. Genetics, of course, come into play with any type of style of training, whether it's even running or whether it's, some type of lifting as well. Because there are some guys that just might have a better VO2 max naturally in running. And there are some guys like C-Bum who are he trains like a maniac. He's a beast for sure. But his genetics do play a part in that, because the way his lat insertions are, the way, his biceps show when he actually cuts down to that 4% body fat on stage or whatever it is, that type of stuff. So, genetics are a big part of it. And I don't want to gloss over that either, because I think a lot of people assume that, lifting is only hard work across the board. And that's the majority of it. I will say that. But in a subjective sport like bodybuilding, genetics play a big sport in it.
Yeah.
Or big
part.
in it. Excuse me. Just like they do in football for that matter too.
Anything.
100%.
Yeah.
I think you and I, we had genetics more geared toward the sports we played.
Yeah, for sure.
At least I would say so for sure, which is kind of interesting how that works. But, that's okay if your genetics don't predisposition you to be an IFBB pro.
Right.
It's not really a big deal.
Right.
Because
not to say you couldn't, though.
Yeah,
you can certainly make yourself. It's just going to take more work.
Absolutely.
And more dedication, more discipline, things like that,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to discourage people either, because, a forgotten factor is that no matter your genetics, everybody is going to get good health benefits out of exercise in every way. Lifting heavy is absolutely a way to elicit that adaptation for anybody, without a doubt. So that's a big factor. And anybody, even if your genetics are bad, in quotations, there's also research that has came out on epigenetics, which shows that if you are fit and you're strong, you can pass it down to your children too.
Exactly.
Which is very interesting.
You
That's a possibility. Yeah, you can flip the script for your bloodline, so to speak, which is pretty freaking cool.
It's awesome
if you really think about it. So there is use, no matter who you are, for exercise. That is an undeniable fact.
Yeah,
without a doubt. So yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that is episode 130. Now, at the end of most of our episodes, especially our non-guest episodes, Money Mitch will ask us a Q&A question that's submitted by you guys, the listeners or the viewers. There's a few different ways we want you guys to submit those questions. Number one is you can DM them to us at untapped.llp on Instagram. You can email them to us. Our email is extricationfitness@gmail.com. There's a email button in our Instagram bio that is also in our Facebook bio, because it is a mouthful. I do understand that. You can text them to us or DM them to us individually if you have our numbers. Or you can leave them in the comments on our Instagram posts or the YouTube videos. So all of these podcasts are also on YouTube. You guys can watch us and see Money Mitch's beautiful face. We also have vlogs on YouTube, and those are very, very fun. And we go to different locations, do different things, get to see our personalities even more out in the wild.
Oftentimes out in the wild,
yes,
funny enough.
Yeah. Yes. So you guys can leave the questions in the comments on either of those, though, as well. Like I mentioned in the beginning, we're not going to do one today because this episode kind of served as an answer to repeated questions that we get revolving around the lifting heavy question. So, without further ado, until next time, peace and love.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Got too little time, I'm